Now, here's a movie that doesn't understand how a lot of things work: love, marriage, compassion, heart transplants, editing. Hi, I'm Pratiksha Mishra and you're listening to my review of Animal. Now, going into Animal, I went in with certain expectations. They were all met, and none of them were very great expectations. Sandeep Reddy Vanga's latest Animal stars Ranbir Kapoor in the lead as this one guy who essentially just has gone through a lot in life because his father doesn't love him. Now, he's in this abusive relationship with his father, but that has kind of become this thing where he will do anything. वो कुछ भी कर जाएगा अपने पापा के approval के लिए. Do we kind of question what happened to the fact that he was raised by what seems like a loving mother and two sisters? No, we don't, because ये है ही नहीं वो story. This is not the story where women are important. This is a story about these two men and how their relationship affects everyone around them, and how this one guy makes just this abusive relationship that he has with his father everyone's problem. Ranbir Kapoor plays the character of Ran Vijay and his father Balbir is played by Anil Kapoor. Ranbir Kapoor is introduced as superstar Ranbir Kapoor in this film, and it's absolutely valid in Animal. The charisma that he has, the raw magnetism that he has, the toxic masculinity that his character has, all of it is reflected so well with the sheer force that is Ranbir Kapoor in this film. This could have been a film that is like a superstar vehicle, but again, this is not that film. Ranbir Kapoor, however, absolutely exemplary. He is going to get so many praises for this role. Everyone's going to appreciate him. I feel like ये ऐसा एक role था जहाँ पे nobody can look at it and go, oh, he did a bad job. It was that picture perfect. Anil Kapoor as his father also does a phenomenal job. कोई भी अगर emotions हो, from like anger to disappointment to sadness, happiness, he conveys through simple subtlety, जैसे eyebrow raise हो गया हो, या just in the way his eyes open in a certain place or certain moment. For that reason, the first half at least is pretty engaging. हमारे जो दो main lead characters हैं इस film में have done such a great job that you're kind of invested in what's happening. The premise is also very interesting to kind of explore the idea of masculinity through this kind of fractured bond between a father and a son. But ये जो पूरी story है, you kind of realize towards the end was very flimsy कि on paper it's a lot, but in the film it doesn't translate to much of anything. First half mein theek hai, you're kind of swayed by the action sequences that are very well mounted to their credit. Just like Ranbir Kapoor's star power, the romance angle also to a certain extent, if you leave like the violent misogyny aside, which you shouldn't, but just in case. But second half mein there is nothing. The film unravels so rapidly in the second half. Second half mein kuch scenes the where I heard someone in the audience just go, wow bro, and that is honestly how I felt in so many scenes. Just the character is saying things completely unironically where you're like, wow bhai, wow, matlab hypocrisy ki bhi seema hoti hai. Ran Vijay at one point when he's wooing the woman that he likes, goes to her and says that, oh, you have broad hips, I think, which means that she can accommodate healthy children, and this line works. This line works. She actually says, oh yeah, what kya line mara hai? This is the man that I want to marry. Sure, to Vanga's credit, I guess, he does give his female character in this film more agency than he did, say, in Kabir Singh, but that agency is also very superficial. When you talk of like, okay, it's not like there is no space in content for toxic relationships or to explore how relationships can be abusive, how marriages can be imperfect, how love stories aren't always all, you know, just rosy tinted glasses. But here it feels like they're on their side, like they're glorifying this behavior. I have seen a lot of people say that, oh, these are characters, they have flaws. Sure, but flaws when they're glorified are not exactly how they should come across in films. Grey characters are amazing, but the point of grey characters is to kind of have an insight into human nature, to criticize what makes them grey. But यहाँ पे we see a grey character and we're meant to root for him because उसका antagonist उससे भी बड़ा grey क्या? Grey क्या मतलब? It's like, okay, there's a lesser of two evils is what we're rooting for. The antagonist that we have here, played by Bobby Deol, who I don't know why he's in the story. I know why he's in the film. He's done a great job as an actor, but वो film वो वाला angle क्यों लेती है? Still, I'm not able to understand. But चलो ठीक है. He is the antagonist, and he is just essentially presented as a much more overtly worse version. But दोनों are cut from the same cloth only. Let's ignore that for a moment. Let's go to the technicalities. The film is edited rather shabbily. Sometimes it feels like you're watching a scene, before it ends it cuts to something else and you're not sure why that scene is following this scene, and that also makes the experience a little jarring. To be fair, the background score in the film is very effective. बहुत ही massy background score है इस film का. The songs also complement the film pretty well. They're never standing out as such. But beyond that, तुम देखने क्या आए हो film में? That doesn't happen. I feel like Animal for the most part is a film that isn't made to be a cinematic experience, but more to be kind of like a provoking experience. To be like, oh, if you thought this was bad, this is worse, right? That's what the film constantly feels like. When it comes to the acting, I did forget to talk about Rashmika Mandanna. I do like her as an actor, but this film was just not it. बहुत जगह पे you can't even understand exactly what she's saying. I understand that it's a heated moment, but for an audience, you still need to know what the character is saying, right? That does not happen. In the scenes where she has to essentially say stand up for herself or be yelling and fighting, those do work out to a certain extent, but otherwise it's pretty lackluster. फिल्म जब तक एंड तक पहुंचती है, यू रियलाइज कि सबसे इफेक्टिव जो सीन है, द शो डाउन सीक्वेंस बिटवीन द फादर एंड सन, is the only thing that you're kind of left with in the second half. I understand the need for this genre of violent films. There's a place for it. I personally like them, but this is just not it. Old Boy, for example, a film that this film also borrows an action sequence from, or homage, whatever you want to call it, is such an example. There are films that show violence that are actually just great cinematic experiences. Also, पूरी film में start से लेके end तक there is this weird fixation with the phallic just the entire time. I understand this is a hyper masculine film, but it goes from gimmicky to jarring. Like at one point they're constantly talking about sex. You're like, wow, okay, sex positivity, I guess. But towards the end you're like, okay, why are we still talking about it? Like, that is all I have to say, because there's just so many people who could have gotten therapy just fighting with each other, and we have to watch it for close to 3.5 hours. The first half is genuinely the only thing that ties this film together, because uske baad you're just kind of sitting there hoping and praying that next time Ranbir Kapoor gets such a action-packed role or this kind of superstar vehicle, it's worth the kind of act that he's putting forward. There is honestly so much to unpack about Animal, but I don't want to drone on and on. Drone on and on se yaad aaya, the run time, the film could have been much shorter. Like, the point would have been made after the interval only. It's way too long of a film with not much else left for it to say, and at the end of the day you kind of left wondering ki yaar ho kya raha hai. And maybe provocation is not enough to make a good film, right? And the one feeling that I was left with after watching Animal was that it is a privilege, not watching the film, to be able to watch violence on cinema and realize that violence like that does not affect you in your daily life is a privilege. It is a privilege a lot of us don't recognize. It's a privilege a lot of us don't want to question in ourselves. But that privilege does exist. और वो एक बहुत ही disheartening reality है about just the society that we live in. Like, should we honestly start questioning why we think triggering someone is such a huge accomplishment in a society where we're essentially just supposed to coexist with each other with empathy? That is one thought that Animal left me with, purely because of the performances, a superstar Ranbir Kapoor, and some of the action sequences that I very genuinely did like, even the one that was kind of inspired by Vikram. My rating for Animal is 2 stars out of 5.